HarperCollins presents Joy for the Steel Girls by Michelle Rawlins. Read by Laura Brydon. Chapter 1. Friday, 7th of February, 1941.
I hope my tea's ready.
Hattie and her mum tensed as the drunken demand travelled from the back door into the kitchen. "Here we go again," Hattie muttered, silently sighing, instinctively knowing the peaceful evening she had hoped to share with her mum would be ruined. "It's just in the pan," Diane said, already on her feet, failing to disguise the anxiety she was feeling.
It better be hot.
Vinny grunted as he dropped into one of the kitchen chairs, the stench of alcohol emanating throughout the small room. "I've kept it warm," Diane affirmed, as she scooped a ladleful of chicken broth from the pan into a bowl before tentatively placing it on the table in front of Vinny.
"What's this slop?"
he snarled in disgust. Diane had bought as much meat as she could with the rations and money she had, but she'd known it wouldn't be enough to satisfy her husband. Nothing ever was. "It's tasty, Dad," Hattie said, jumping to the defence of her worn-out mum.
"It's tasty, Dad,"
Vinny whined, mocking and glaring at his daughter, not even attempting to disguise the look of contempt in his eyes, which were glassy and bloodshot due to the amount of alcohol he'd consumed.
"I might have known you would stick your tuppence worth in."
Hattie bit her tongue, knowing whatever she said next would just enrage her dad further. Neither she nor her mum were strangers to Vinny's drunken rants. She had lost count of the number of times her dad had come home drunk from the local boozer, shouting his demands and spurting out a tirade of insults. "I've cut you up some fresh bread too," Diane said, trying to avert another row as she put down a chipped saucer holding the heel of a loaf she'd made the night before.
"No butter?"
Vinny barked, spit spraying across the table.
"What does a man have to do to get a bloody decent meal in this house?"
Hattie frowned, wishing she had the courage to stand up to her dad. She hated seeing how he treated her mum. His selfish, self-centred attitude was the very reason her poor mum scrimped together every penny she could to pay the bills. For years Diane had robbed Peter to pay Paul. The only reason Vinny had allowed his wife to take a job in the canteen at Vickers, where Hattie worked as a turner, was because she would bring more money home than her previous jobs as a cleaner.
"Did you get paid today?"
Vinny demanded as he noisily slurped a mouthful of his tea. "I did," she nodded, knowing there wouldn't be much left after Vinny took what he wanted, with little regard to the bills that needed paying.
"And I hope you have tipped up your keep,"
Vinny growled, glaring at Hattie, who was sat across the table. "Of course," Hattie replied, forcing a smile, hiding the disgust she felt at her dad's greed.
"I should think so too. You have an easy ride here."
Hattie bit her lip, her anger turning to hurt. How had her dad become so hostile? He hadn't always been so nasty. For years he had been the perfect doting father, but it had been quite some time since he resembled the man that would read her bedtime stories as she curled up on his knee. Over recent years, her dad's drinking had got to the point where he wouldn't get through a single day without seeing the bottom of an empty glass. Diane had explained it was his way of blocking out what he'd seen in the Great War. Initially, Hattie had felt sorry for her dad, but it was hard to remain sympathetic when he was so cruel. What she really wanted to do was stand up to his barrage of abuse, but no matter how many times she vowed to tell her dad he was being selfish, she could never muster up the courage. Instead, it was her mum who tried, as gently as possible, to appease him. "Leave her be, Vinny," Diane interjected, right on cue, feeling more protective than ever since she had discovered Hattie was pregnant. They hadn't told Vinny yet. Hattie was adamant the next person to know should be her husband, John, but like so many other young men, he had signed up to the war effort and was currently posted on Salisbury Plain.
"Are you telling me what I can and can't do in my own house?"
Vinny stormed, his unpredictable temper erupting. "No, love." But it was too late. Before Diane could calm her red-faced husband, he was on his feet. Slamming his clenched fists on the table, Vinny glared at Diane.
"You were always protecting that girl,"
he ranted.
"I have every bloody right to ask her about her rent."
"Dad, it's fine," Hattie said.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?